Hello, campers. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome to the beginning of the Friday Project, where myself and Russell Howell are going to be covering every movie from the Nightmare on Elm Street.
You what?
It's late. From the That's the other guy. We
Don't
will
go to-
talk about him.
Don't fall asleep.
We will talk about him a little later in this project. But no, we're going to be covering every movie from the Friday the 13th franchise. And this was actually, well, Russell and I were talking and we were thinking about, because we're getting the Crystal Lake TV show from Peacock later on in October. And so we started talking about Jason, and he was like, it'd be fun to do like a Jason project. So here we are. Basically, we're going to be putting the Reiner project and the horror movie iceberg, the main iceberg, on a brief pause. And based on the math that I've done in my head, from this Friday going forward through October, there are enough Fridays to cover every mainline movie, Freddy vs. Jason, the remake, and His Name Was Jason and Crystal Lake Memories, which are two documentaries, which I've always wanted to watch and to cover. So that's what's going to be coming up Fridays here on the channel. Russell, I'm very much looking forward to this.
Yeah, I am too. I'm kind of glad that we kind of like decided to go forward with this. It was something, I mean, I've seen them. I kind of just want to revisit them and just to get everything ready for the new show. I think it's a perfect idea. And it works perfectly, and it blends right into Halloween time. So all is well.
But we're going to be kicking things off with the one that started it all. But before we do that, leave a like, comment, subscribe. We would greatly appreciate that. But with all that out of the way, let's get it started and let's talk about
Friday the 13th.
This was released in 1980, was directed by Sean S. Cunningham, and starred Adrienne King, Betsy Palmer, and a very young Kevin Bacon. I cannot confirm if this was his very first role, but it was certainly one of his first. And seeing him so young here, like, I had known that he was in this, but seeing him, I'm just like, wow, what a decade he would have after this.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, even cameoing in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles right there in the beginning too. But yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
like,
but yeah, huge 80s. Footloose. Yep.
Just like, he'd have a crazy 80s. And he'd have a crazy 90s too. Tremors, JFK, list goes on. Apollo 13 and the like. But this, I mean, I don't think I really need to tell you the plot of this movie. If you're watching this, you have either seen this movie or have not seen it for a while. You know what this movie is, and you all know what's going into it. Like, these camp counselors are coming to set up Camp Crystal Lake, which in the late 50s, an incident happened which caused the camp to close down. Well, the camp's being reopened, much to a mysterious killer's chagrin. And, well, we'll talk about that when we talk about that. But, Russell, I wanted to know, what was your first experience with this? Did you, I mean, obviously, you didn't see it in theaters, I would have to imagine. But
No,
when did you see this first?
Yeah, it was in 80. I was born in 83, so that never would have worked. That wouldn't have worked out too well. Honestly, it was probably when I was younger, watching films. I remember USA Network used to have the Friday the 13th films on like late at night on like Friday the 13th on a weekend or whatever, and I would watch them.
As we begin Friday the 13th, part 1, next on USA.
But I probably rented it at a video store and watched it when I was way too young, because I was into Freddy like when I was like 6, 7. So like I was watching horror films I probably had no business watching when I was younger. But I liked them and I turned out okay, I would say. So, but yeah, that would probably be my first, I think, exposure to it. And I always liked and I always loved when Friday the 13th would pop up, at random months or whatever, because like I said, USA television network would show these, and then maybe like Spike TV later on down the road too. They would show these films late at night. They'd just have a marathon. They would just run the gambit on it. The first theater experience I have with Jason would be Jason Goes to Hell. and we'll talk about that when we review it. But yeah, but outside of that, I think, yeah, like I said, VHS tape would be the first go around of this, I would say.
I remember watching Cinemassacre, James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, like his big retrospective on Friday the 13th, and him talking about how Joe Bob Briggs on TNT's Monster Madness did a whole Friday the 13th marathon, and he nearly went nuts. I mean, I imagine Joe Bob is a little nuts, but even more so than normal, I would imagine. But shout out to him. He's great. But my first experience was very late in the game. I think for like Scary Mania 1 or 2. I know I was severely late to the party, but I ended but I mean I ended up watching it really late, and probably even not even that. I'll have to fact check myself, but the point is I was severely late to this movie and this franchise, and I've seen it now a few times. And watching this movie, knowing what all happens in terms of like in the canon of the series and outside of it, with everything that's going on, like legal wise and all of that, you would never think that this would spawn 9 more movies plus a versus movie with another horror villain, a remake, 2 documentaries, a book, and a prequel television show.
And a Nintendo game.
That's true. Yeah,
Friday 13th for Nintendo was so awesome. It's so cheesy to watch now, but God, it was so scary to play it. But yeah, I mean, and a television series too, as well. Kind of to follow in the shadows of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, as well. But yeah, no, I mean, you know, going into it, and I think it's a perfect summer movie too, just because it's summer-esque out, you know, at camp. You think summer, warm weather, and it also transitions perfectly into like Halloween season because it's a scary movie and it's one of the OGs. You know what I mean? So even going into it, this movie's insanely rewatchable, as cheesy as some of the things may be in the film. I mean, it's definitely rewatchable, and it has a high reverence in my lexicon of horror films for sure.
I also found it fascinating because I watched I also watched Real Life Ryan's big retrospective on the Friday the 13th franchise, and it is very good. But realized in that Sean Cunningham was really good friends with a guy by the name of Wes Craven, who he and him worked together on a little movie called The Last House on the Left, which that movie is not great, but it got Wes Craven's foot in the door, and the rest is history. And you look at that movie and you look at this, and you're just like, it seems like Craven and Cunningham kind of were like 2 peas in a pod, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, because basically, I mean, same blueprint almost, obviously different premises, but the same type of blueprint. You know, Sean S. Cunningham 4 years prior, obviously 1980 with this film, and then would, you know, later serve way to 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street. But I mean, it pretty much is the same basic gist. You have one person, a figure, terrorizing high school kids, high school kids, you know, so like it works. And it's a different premise too, which I appreciate too, with the Elm Street taking a different toll on stuff too.
Right. And this is one of those movies where you look at, and again, taking into account of what this would spawn in terms of a franchise, you look at this and you go, man, like there's stuff here that is not even like thought about in the other movies. Like, for example, like there's some stuff that's not even thought about, but then there's stuff that just sticks around. Like literally the first frame you hear, which is just like baked into the cake in terms of the score. Like, you know, there's a Voorhees around somewhere, like just iconic stuff right there. But then you get the villain at the end, which we'll get to, and then we get the twist there. Like there's a lot of roots in, weirdly enough, psychological horror here. Roots that are definitely never really followed up on in like 2, 3, and the rest. It definitely becomes a pure slasher starting with 2. But I just watched this and I'm just like, man, Cunningham was throwing a lot of stuff at the wall to see what would stick.
Yeah, just even the beginning of it, you're in 1957, so they literally show the 2 counselors getting murdered at the beginning to open the film. So the story that you hear present day is literally the story they talk about in 1957 with 2 counselors dying. That was the counselors dying. So it was kind of cool that callback literally was the beginning of the film. I thought that was kind of neat. And I also appreciate the fact present day, which it can't get outdated because you watch it in 2026 and it's present day. We'll throw that in air quotes, but I think it's really cool.
Yes. And then you get into the town and you get to see Annie, who in a normal movie would be, this is your main character. And
Yeah.
no, that is not what happens. But I love the ambiance of this town, if you will. Really, this whole movie just has vibes off the chart. Like just this town, the camp, like you can just tell how many directors and screenwriters were just like, okay, definitely taking that, definitely taking that, definitely taking that. Like you just see all the spawnings of the imitators and the duplicators, like In a Violent Nature, and just like all of these, like just left, right, and center.
Yeah, and I would love to visit. This is Hope, New Jersey, because you can still see the when she's in the cemetery, you can still see the arch or whatever it says, Hope, New Jersey, and it's still there. Like people take pictures, and then I also guess the diner that Annie goes into is still there, and they actually welcome like horror nerds and Friday the 13th enthusiasts and stuff like that. There they have like Friday the 13th themed things and merchandise and stuff like that. Definitely a place I definitely want to check out. Definitely on a bucket list type thing. I think it would be kind of cool.
Well, Annie's played by an actress named Robbie Morgan, who does not have a ton of credits to her name. Like on her Letterboxd, there's only 10. And Letterboxd has a weird thing where it'll like give out like short films and documentaries as technically credits.
Yeah.
But on her Letterboxd, it's only 10, which is just wild to think about. But it's kind of similar to Psycho, another movie that Cunningham pulled a lot of material from, where it's like you think the movie's going to be Norma Crane, but nope, it's not about Norma Crane. It's about her sister. So it's just... you think it's going one way, but then no, it's not.
Yeah, and even even the focus on score to set the ambience too. Obviously, a Hitchcock staple as well in Psycho.
Yes, and then we talked about Kevin Bacon earlier, but you also have Adrienne King, who becomes like the main final girl here. And she's good in this too. I think depending on everyone's preference, there's going to be like this whole idea of like the movie feels very lived in and that the acting feels quite rough. So that's going to be mileage is going to vary for people. I don't mind it myself. It could be better, sure. But at the same time, like you look at this and you go, you're not expecting like Brando. So, like, I'm not saying temper your expectations, but like know what you're getting into, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and also this is 1980. I'm thinking it was less cheesy when you're actually in it live, watching it in 1980. I can imagine. Obviously, with anything that we watch, retrospectively, going back and looking at it, you can always be like, well, this movie's over 45 years old. So, I mean, obviously, some of the things are dated a little bit. The dialogue, yeah, it's cheesy at times, but kind of what you said, I know what I'm getting when I go into this movie. I'm not expecting, an Oscar screenplay, you know what I mean? An Oscar award-winning screenplay or whatever. I know what I'm getting into. Yeah, like you said, lower the expectations if you haven't, and just have fun with it. I mean, that's why this movie and this franchise has, withstood the test of time 45 plus years later, is because of that, because of the fact that, you know what I mean? It doesn't take itself too seriously. Obviously, Jason X, that's all we got to say. But, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's fun to see the inception of the Jason Voorhees character, and just getting a little bit of a backstory. Just enough, nothing crazy, just enough to wet the palate and get you a little bit curious of what happened. And he definitely has a motive. He definitely has a reason behind this to do this. So yeah.
Well, I want to shout out also the gore effects because for 1980, it's not like a splatter film. It's nothing like that, but the kills are still pretty effective in my opinion. Like you get the one girl who gets an axe to the head. That I forgot how brutal that looked. Kevin Bacon gets an arrow through the throat. Shout out to Tom Savini, visual effects legend, for creating a lot of the effects here. Just fantastic stuff. And then you see the one kid like hung up like on the door by like arrows, and you just look at it and go, oh, that looks like a rough death.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like you said, the shout out for the practicality of some of the kills. You know what I mean? Some of it, like, even it pans real quick when it happens, so they don't have to really show it like it would probably do now, and have more fun with it because you can, because of effects. Back then, obviously, they were limited with budgets, and just they didn't have that type of technology that we have now. So like the one scene is kind of cheesy with her getting her neck cut. I think that's Annie, the main girl at the beginning, where she gets her neck cut from like the tree. It looks kind of cheesy, and I feel like it's almost like he goes over with the knife or whatever, and it doesn't cut right away, and then all of a sudden you see it cut. But again, that's just fine tooth combing it. But I think it's a really good practicalities, like you said, with Bacon getting the arrow through the throat, and some of the other kills I think are just fine.
Yeah. And I mean, you also have to keep in mind it's 1980, so there's going to be some stuff that's going to be rough around the edges. I think the thing to keep in mind is that you look at this and you go, man, they don't do some of this anymore. So you got to appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
But the big twist, and I mean, if everyone's watching or listening to this, then they know exactly like what's coming. But the big twist is that the killer here is Mrs. Voorhees, Pamela Voorhees, played by Betsy Palmer. And Betsy Palmer had a career before this movie, but this is the thing that she is known for. And she leaned into it, and she became like a huge supporter of the movies like later on. But it just like you look at her career and you're like, okay, she had success before this, and it's like, you're only just known for the one thing. You better have gotten it right. And she did.
Yeah, no, I thought she's fantastic. Obviously, the pull the rug from underneath your feet moment, for sure. You didn't see it coming. I appreciate that. Even my wife had mentioned, because I was talking about I'm rewatching it, and she said, yeah, I really appreciate the fact that it went something different. It wasn't just kill mindlessly, and it had a story to it. And then you have that big curveball at the end, which I think is fantastic. And
then you get the big twist at the end where it's like where you get Alice. She's in the boat. It's like, okay, it's all over. But then and then you see Jason reach up and pull her down. But in the words of Biggie Smalls, it was all a dream. And she's like in the hospital bed, and you sit there and you think to yourself, in hindsight, we all know what happens, but in 1980, I would have loved to have been in the theaters to like see everyone's reaction to it, and be like, what happens now? So I would have loved to have been in the theaters for that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, just because, and they don't end it that way. That'd have been a perfect way to end it right there, with him pulling her pulling her into from the boat, pulling her into the water. End it there. I think that would have been perfect. I think that would have been really cool, but it takes a different turn, and we're in the hospital, and we have that whole scene. So yeah, I would have ended it the way it was. We thought it was going to end before she woke up from a dream.
Mm-hmm.
But
I feel like in general, there's just some stuff that I feel like they were just like getting cold feet on, or just changing at the last minute. Like, one of my favorite stories in doing research for this is that I believe it was Cunningham. He took out a full page ad in Variety, or no, it wasn't him, it was Paramount. And Paramount took out a whole big page in Variety magazine with the title Friday the 13th, the most terrifying movie ever made.
Oh yeah.
The script hadn't even been written. So
Wow. No pressure.
They were basically calling their shot. And so it was up to like Cunningham and Victor Miller to deliver the most terrifying movie ever made, which I don't believe it is. But at the same time, you look at this and you go like, man, in 1980, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I mean, it's fun. No pun intended. It's campy, but it is it's a rewatchable film. I mean, it's not the scariest movie ever. Obviously, it doesn't really come close, but it's fun, and it's part of that. You know what I mean? The OGs there for slashers. I mean, you have to talk about this franchise. So.
Yeah, like I see, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too deep, but I secretly kind of hate when a movie's like the scariest movie ever made. It's like what scares people is subjective. Like everyone has different fears. Like Exorcist is billed as the most terrifying movie ever made, and I like the original Exorcist quite a bit.
Yeah,
it's not the scariest movie that I've ever seen. Like I have one, Russell. I'm sure you have one. Everyone watching or listening to this has one off the top of their head. Comment down below. I want to see something about that. But the point is that a tagline like that is just, I don't know, it feels like you're setting yourself up for failure a little bit. Not failure necessarily, but it's like you're just setting yourself up for people to be like, it's like disappointment, I guess.
But rest assured, when I hear that though, first thing I tell myself, I got to check this out. I got to check it out. I'm curious. Is this really it? You know what I mean? Yeah.
And for the record, like last year when I went to Halloween Horror Nights in the Jason house, it scared me. So, maybe they were onto something with that whole thing.
Talk about hype and what you were saying about that. I remember several years ago with Hereditary, like that was like everybody word of mouth on that one, but it was scary for sure. It was definitely like a top tier horror film for sure. But that whole word of mouth thing, I think really, even Paranormal Activity, people were fainting or passing out at screenings or whatever. To see that though, I guess my first experience with the believe the hype, I think, was Blair Witch Project. I'll go back and talk about that all the time because I was 15 at the time and I believed it. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. You know what I mean? This is so cool. How they marketed it, everything. I just thought it was so cool. But even nowadays, I'll still go see these films out of curiosity because you never know. Who knows? It might be the most scariest movie ever, But
I'm not going to lie. From earlier this year, Undertone is slowly kind of creeping up into the scariest movies that I've ever seen. Just that ending alone. Just like,
and I mean, you have to watch on the theater how loud it is, and just some of those. I had, and I think I was the only one in the theater. Or no, was I the only one in the theater? There might have been a couple other people, but the sound of that, like with the podcasting and stuff like that. Oh my Lord, I had goosebumps all over my arms, man. It was that really immerses you into the environment. You have to see these like in the theater. But yeah, Undertone was definitely mad underrated. I wish they would release a physical copy of this. Kind of mad at A24.
I'm sure they will get around to it.
Yeah.
But to put the period at the end of the sentence for the OG Friday the 13th, I'm going to give this one a great rating. I've had like it, not like, I've been kind of in between. Upon this rewatch, I gained a bit of a new respect for it. It's not perfect. For a movie that's 90 minutes, it does slow down a bit near the middle. I'm not going to lie. And like there's some kind of erroneous stuff, like they kill a snake in one of the cabins. I'm like, okay, that's fine and all. It's like disposable. But when the movie does like hit, you look at it and you go, okay, that's actually quite effective there. So they 10 out of 10 on atmosphere and just general like uneasy feelings, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. And 10 out of 10 with obviously setting the mood with the hard rain. That's scary in itself. Just thinking about it, being in the middle of the woods like that, with like really no phone, no nothing, no technology because you're in 1980. Like it's really crazy to think about that. But yeah, this movie is just you got to hold this movie in high reference just because of the fact that this movie did spawn this whole entire universe, you know what I mean? This whole entire franchise, you know what I mean? So, it's a great film. Lower the expectations though, you know what I mean? It's not one of those things where like this is going to be like the greatest horror film ever, but know that this movie is important in the slasher genre of horror films because of what it did, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the movies will get better and they will get worse as this project goes on, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. What did you think of the original Friday the 13th from 1980? Let us know. Love to read what you have to say. Russell, I look forward to doing this with you for every Friday through October. We got a long way to go. But tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find us Notorious by Chance on Facebook. Chance and I just shot our last episode on Children of Men, so that should be dropping for our 20th anniversary episode. So check that one out, and then we will be hitting the ground hard on MCU, finishing out Phase 2 and going into Phase 3 to gear up for Avengers Doomsday. So we got that going on. You guys can find us also on YouTube, Notorious by Chance as well.
Yep, all the links down below. Subscribe to them over there. As far as this channel goes, next Friday we will return to, well, not necessarily Camp Crystal Lake, but we'll be returning to the world of Jason, and we'll be covering Friday the 13th, Part 2, released 1 year later. But for Russell, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. Y'all take care.